All right. Hey, everybody. I am super excited because this week I have a very special guest. Actually, it's the first repeat guest I've ever had. But of course, I wanted this. This is the most special podcast we've done in I don't even know how long because we are going on our 7-year anniversary for appointments today. So I'm gonna get into everything here in just a moment. But first, I'm gonna cue that intro.
Welcome to Business Insights with Matt Milia. I'm your host, Matt Milia, and in this podcast, we'll talk about the real, raw, uncut business success secrets you won't find anywhere else. Follow my journey from entry level to CEO. We discuss real actionable items you can plug into your business right away. To subscribe to our weekly top tips, you can go to www.mattpodcast.com and join our community of elite high-level performers. And if you're interested in our inside sales company, you can go to www.appointmentstoday.com to jump on a free strategy call. And now, stay tuned for our podcast.
All right. What's happening, brother? How are you?
Hey, Matt. How you doing, buddy?
I'm great. Thank you so much for jumping on. It means the world because, of course, hey, if it wasn't for you, appointments today would have never gotten their start. So
if it wasn't for us, man.
Well, I appreciate you jumping on and would love to collaborate a little bit with you about, you've been in the real estate industry now since when? When did you start, Al?
I think I was like 6 years old.
I love it.
Yeah. No, it was like 23 years, I think, or 24.
Wow. So
23, 24 years. Back before the internet, was a thing for real estate. So that ages me right there. I'll leave it at that.
Man, well, so you obviously started off in a totally different time. And I mean, of course, even when we started back in 2015, I mean, it was, there were lots of expired, there were FSBOs, it was, ground and pound cold calling. Now it's so much more strategic, having to, run advertising, do things a little bit differently, doing more of an attract yet and not chase. In your opinion, I mean, what do you think are some of the changes that have happened over the years in the real estate industry?
Well, I mean, over the course of the years that, you and I've known each other, I think that the biggest thing when we started working together, you really nailed it. The biggest change is what the market's doing right now, which we have no control over. But we tend to adapt. We've had to adapt. When we were still partners with Appointments Today, we had to adapt our business model several times, and really have that flexibility, the ability to pivot when we needed to pivot. Because right now, if we built our entire company based upon expireds, then we wouldn't have a company. And so,
100%.
It's actually kind of interesting, Matt, because since I was licensed, making phone calls to expireds for sale by owners, whatever it is, even cold calling streets, I've done that. Literally, I've done it all. That's how we built. You could build a business that way. And I remember even making calls to where I'd have, at any given time when I was in sales. And I was out listing houses, I could have 20 to 30 active listings that I was trying to sell that's just mine, the ones that I've listed. So I remember setting aside Fridays, or sometimes it was Thursdays, and I would just set aside the whole afternoon to call all my clients to get price reductions. Like, that's just not an activity that anyone has. If you've gotten your license in the last 4 or 5 years,
yep.
You don't even know, you don't even know what that activity would be like, because you list a house,
totally.
Boom, you have a different. So it's much different as far as it's really, we don't have a healthy, even market where we have enough inventory where, you could say that, a buyer has is equal shot as a seller. It's so weighted heavily. There's such a shortage in inventory. The buyers are truly at a huge disadvantage. And I haven't seen anything like that in 24 years of me being licensed. So it's been a big change, and you got to pivot to stay relevant in this type of market.
It's crazy to think that you were actually reaching out to do price reductions, when now it's like, I almost feel like it's price increases. I mean, it's insane how fast the market has just blown up, and houses are not on the market for, I mean, 24, 48 hours. I mean, is it like that as well still in the Cleveland market, where in Ohio, I mean, houses flying off?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, we have agents, just within Honey Badger Nation, we have agents in all 50 states, and it's pretty much like that everywhere. I mean, California, they're saying is starting to see a bit of a slowdown, but it's really just a slowdown in the increase in prices. They're still getting multiple offers. They're just getting less multiple offers. And so I don't know what that really is going to necessarily mean. I know that, with interest rates that go up, no one wants to hear that because we're so used to this cheap money that's been floating around for years. But here's what I've learned, Matt. And I mean, for your listeners, for whatever this is worth, the best value that I think I could give you is, I remember back after September 11th happened, that the Fed cut rates, and the housing has always been the sector that has really, saved the country and got us out of recessions and whatnot. And so they lowered the interest rates. They got housing going big time. And what happened between 01 and 05 is there was this boom, and they did it the wrong way. They did it with bad loans. We all know the whole story. I won't get into it, but yeah. I used to look back at those days, 2004, 2005, 2006, specifically those years, and say, you didn't have to be good to list a house and sell it for top money. They would just sell, like you didn't have to be good. And then as we crept into 2008 and we started seeing the market retract, we started seeing real estate agents drop out and just literally like take their license and give it back to the state. And we started seeing this flip flop from a seller's market to a buyer's market. There was a lot of agents that got hit upside the head with a 2x4, and they had to actually learn skills. You can't fake being an expert. And that market exposed all the fakers. All the people who, thought that they were good because they listed a house and they got it sold for top dollar in 5 days. That's just, I hate to tell you, that's just the market. It's not you. Okay. So I believe we're in for another type of correction. It's not going to be as severe as we saw in 08 or 09 because we have such a high demand still. But with the interest rates going up, it will start to slow the buyer traffic down a bit. It's going to be more expensive to buy the same home just in monthly payments. So you're going to see affordability start to go down a bit. And the market will shift a little bit. But I think that real estate agents really need to focus on their skills. I don't know anybody who has really, really worked hard to master the skills they need where it hasn't made them more money or it hasn't done them good in the long run. So I think it's just, there's no one that knows it better than you. You're the most skilled person I've ever seen on work a phone. So you know what that's all about.
I appreciate that. And, I will say that the skills are so vital, and it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I know, of course, with you, running your team, being in it, having and of course too, with the Honey Badger Nation, I mean, how many people are in that group now, by the way? What is it, like 10,000, 13? It is a lot of people. How many people are in that group?
It's just over 10,000 agents.
Wow.
Yeah, right. Just right over 10, maybe 10.2, something like that. Yeah.
So being a marketer in today's, and I know with real estate, it's almost a cliche thing because you always say, oh, you need to be a great marketer. You got to be a great marketer. But it's not being a great marketer where I'm going to drop something into the MLS and then the MLS is going to position the house in front of the right places. It's going above and beyond that. Would you say that having great content, great posts, great videos, putting even learning or knowing how to run ads or having someone that can help you do paid ads, I mean, would you say those are all still very valuable things that you need to know in today's market to help differentiate you from other agents?
Well, sure. And, it's also, yes, all that does matter. But I believe that, the biggest thing right now that you could be as a marketer is you have to understand video. You have to understand YouTube. And you have to understand it in a way that you can position yourself as that expert. Like I just literally saw an advertisement for a team that will remain unnamed, who is still kind of leaning heavily into your home's going to be advertised on 120 websites. Well, there's zero differentiating factors with that. You can pop the listing into the MLS yourself, do nothing else, and you're going to be on 120 websites. And so there's, and so if you want to differentiate yourself from competition and earn more listings and win more listings, you have to improve your skills, but you also have to have a different differentiating proposition. You got to be able to educate, not sell your clients that you're going to list their house, but educate them as to what process do you plug them into. And you know this better than anybody. We have a proven, repeatable process that's backed by market research to sell homes for up to 18% more than traditional methods. And a traditional method, you could argue and say, is putting a yard sign in the yard, putting you in the MLS, and then, praying for offers, which are going to come because of the markets there. But how do you know, just because a house sells $50,000 over asking price, does that indicate that the agent was just that good, or did they just underprice the property to get a lot of offers? Because that's, in theory, that's how auctions work well, with that. But, I guess I would argue to say is that, okay, did they list it at the right price, or did they just, do the easy thing? Because it doesn't take skill to underprice a property in order to get 20 offers. Anybody can do that. And the question is that the right advice, with regard to, that seller?
Do you remember one thing that you did that was very different? I actually thought this was hilarious. I was just thinking about this the other day. Do you remember that billboard that you had put up that was thinking of leaving the country depending on who becomes president? That was brilliant. And I mean, that generated, I mean, a good amount of business. And I mean, it got you exposure everywhere. No one was I think really it goes back to the fortune rewarding the bold. And that was an awesome play. I mean, you've done a ton of things to differentiate, and I'm glad that you brought that up. What are some things that of course, guaranteed home sale programs, there were so many different things. Now it's hard to not sell a home anymore. But there's so many different things out there. What was it that inspired you to do the billboard? That was pretty genius.
I mean, we've done a few things, and I think there's a difference between, marketing in a sense of, looking for your branding, a sense of branding versus marketing for leads. And although both are important, I've really never been much of a marketer for the sense of branding, because I believe that if I market correctly for leads, that the other will take care of itself. That's just always been my philosophy. And I'm not saying that it's right or a wrong philosophy. That's just mine. But there were a couple times where I thought a little bit, and really none of the ideas were mine. I just implemented them. And, where I would see back in 08, 09, I saw someone down in Florida. This is during the foreclosure crisis. Someone put, a bunch of buyers on a bus. And people were, listen, I had, 20, they put like 20 cash buyers, investors on a bus and drive them around and do showings. And so I thought to myself, what a great idea, and so in 08, I rented a huge conversion, but like a luxury bus, if you will. I put a lender on there. I put, a bunch of cash investors on there and investors that wanted to buy property. And we toured, semi, high-end to semi-high-end homes on the West Side in the bus. And then like 3 news stations picked it up. USA Today picked it up. Some of the spin was really good. Some of the spin was not so very good, but it definitely got us out there. And then the billboard, for as politically charged is world we're living in now, it all kind of started back in 2016 when Trump and Hillary were going at it. And so, you had one half that was hating Trump, the other half hating Hillary. And so, I just kind of went right down the middle with it. And it wasn't, a Republican or Democratic thing. It was like, hey, if you're thinking of leaving the country, if either of these two win, call me, I'll sell the home. And that got a bunch of attention, especially since the Republican national convention was going on in Cleveland in 2016. And so it was fun, obviously when you get your name out there, it doesn't hurt your business as long as you're not doing something silly or dumb,
Right.
and we used a little bit of humor to get people's attention, and it caught the news's attention, and that's great. I wouldn't say that helped me sell 300 homes that year, but what it did do is it started getting us closer and do that name recognition. We want that mind share, and you can do that in various different ways. You don't got to spend big money on a billboard, but that was kind of fun for us to do and execute on.
Well, and I think too, the one thing that for you, I always felt like when I was making calls, I almost felt as if I had an unfair advantage, because when I started off as your inside sales rep, you were, I mean, at that time, as crazy as it is to say, I believe it would work down here very well still, but you were doing a local paper and you were putting in there the guaranteed sale in the local paper. And that was bringing in tons of leads, and then radio, and, of course, again, guaranteed sale with the radio and selling, with specific performance guarantees. That in itself is such a differentiator. And I think that it made my position easier as an inside sales rep. One of the things that I've noticed over, I mean, just this year alone, it seems like a lot of folks are retracting. A lot of agents are kind of pulling back on spend. They may not be investing in a lot of the areas where that drove results in the past. What advice would you give to someone who, because again, I feel like they're operating on fear. What advice would you give to somebody who might be a little bit more fear-based and, still got this obligation to grow your business? What kind of advice would you give to someone to try to get past that?
I mean, I think the advice would change depending upon where they're at in the cycle, what stage they're at in their business. We have a pretty cool document with NAEA that where Mike and Jay wrote this out, where there's 7 different stages of a business. So obviously it would change depending upon that. If they were in the early stages of growing their business, let's say they were trying to get to their first 12 or 15 transactions annually, their problem that they would need to focus on right now are skills. They really have to become an expert and skilled on the phone and skilled presenting and talking to people. And now's not a bad time to do that, because when the market shifts a little bit, there's going to be more opportunities for listings. And which kind of probably brings me to my next point would be, get really, 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 really good at listing homes. And the way to do that is at bats. Before you and I started working together, it was just me, and I didn't have an inside salesperson. I was just like getting at bats, man. I was just going out there and just, I was going to go out there and fail if it meant that. Of course, I would go out there and try to get the listing, but I was really just trying to get in front of as many sellers as I possibly could, because my Neanderthal brain, the way it works is that I know if I do something over and over and over again, I'll probably get good at it. And I've seen that in just everything, from sports to anything that I wanted to learn. So my goal was to just do that. Like if I could do that more than anything else, I felt like I'd get really good at it. And that worked. So, I went out on listing appointments that maybe they weren't even great appointments to go on, but I went on them anyway. And I got in front of every single appointment, even the ones I didn't get, or even the ones I didn't want, I learned more and more, to the point where when we started working together, I was so confident when I walked into a listing, if I wanted it, more than likely I'm going to take it. And you only get that way, and that confidence through repetition and getting them reps in. So I would get that repetition. Go on for sale by owners. There's a lot of people that are probably trying to sell for sale by owner because the market's so good, and they're thinking to themselves, well, why would I pay a real estate agent? Well, if you're able to articulate your value proposition in a way that they understand that there's a possibility that they may end up paying a commission anyway if a buyer, if a broker brings one in. B, you really, without exposing that property to the whole market, not just the FSBO market. Most buyers are working with a buyer's agent, especially in this market. So if you're for sale by owner, you're going to get shown last. They're going to be showing all the other listings first. You're going to be shown last. And if you're able to just, articulate this to a seller, you're going to be in a really great position when this shifts, and it's not going to be easy to sell a house, they're going to need us more. So that's the advice I'd give.
That's amazing advice. And I think the most important thing too right now is to just double down on what is working and figure out what's not, and what isn't working, move that aside. And I love the fact too that you brought up, I actually forgot about the seven levels of where you are in your business. And I know that makes a huge difference in what you should invest in, what you shouldn't, and where you should put your time in. I think also having a coach, you would agree with that, right? Having a coach, a mentor, somebody to help push you to the next level. I think that makes a huge difference.
I believe that anybody that wants to grow their business can grow it faster and bigger with a coach. It certainly has served myself, you, in many ventures. It really it boils down to you're at A and you're trying to get to B, and the faster you can get from A to B, usually that's a better thing, right? Versus traveling like this up and then making mistakes and having to come back and then getting back on the line again and then going down here and then right back in the line again. The more straight line you can make that of getting from A to B typically is what people like. I don't know anybody that said, I want it to take 10 years for me to grow my business to $1 million.
Right.
Would you rather do it in 2 years? So, you could do that through coaching, or you could just try to figure it out on yourself, make lots of mistakes, and literally flush tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in money down the drain trying to do it, versus get yourself a good coach. So, I'm a big believer in coaching for sure.
One of the things too that, and I mean, I hear this all the time, and because, we run ads for appointments today. I mean, we run some ads on YouTube, Facebook. I'm testing TikTok as we speak. But the one thing that I've noticed is that a lot of people, as soon as they get on the phone, the one thing too they're saying is that, oh, I've been burned, or this didn't work, or I've tried this, or I've tried that. I've always had this mindset, and I'll bring it back to this is a Grant Cardone. This is Uncle G right here. One of the things that from hearing him talk, one of the things that he's always said is, you might spend $100,000 on the wrong thing, but spending that $10,000, that $20,000, and keep questioned by testing, which is also Sheplack, keep questioned by testing and test out more things. I mean, for folks right now that are struggling or that are just trying to hoard and, hold on to, they're just trying to hold on, and they're either waiting for a crash or they're waiting for a correction, and they're like, I'm not going to spend money, I'm not going to do anything. I mean, what advice? And I know, of course, different stages of business, but for someone like yourself, and I believe you've always been someone to invest first and question by testing, do you feel like that is still applicable today in this marketplace and with where we're going?
Sure. I mean, I play hockey, as you know, and one of the greatest is the great one, Wayne Gretzky, who always said, skate where the puck is going, not where it's at. So, a smart marketer today would be looking where the puck is going and then preparing for that. I've been preparing for over a year for this market, to shift. I've been doing that by running certain offers that they're actually working okay right now. But I know when that shift starts to happen, they're going to work even better. The cool news is that I'm not pivoting right when I see the market shifting. I've already pivoted. So we're positioning ourselves with offers that are relevant, not just for today, but even more relevant when that market decides to shift. And we do that through our message to the market. We do that through our offer. Okay. And I know that when it does shift, we're going to be prepared, but we're not going to be being reactive. We're being proactive. And that's what I believe that everyone should be doing. Don't get too comfortable. I've made that mistake. And, even the best of the best will get smacked upside the head with a 2x4 if you get complacent and you don't stay, sharp and relevant and keep both eyes open and again, look where that puck's going, not where it's at. So that's about it. I actually got someone waiting on me. I got to jump, but man, it was great chat with you, Matt. I love you, brother, like a brother. And
you too,
having me on, man.
Thanks, Al. Thanks for being on, and for everybody watching. See you same time, same channel next week. Thanks, Al. See you, brother.
See you guys.